evening to the 12th grade students, parents, and high school counselors. Thank you so much for joining us for the Admissions 101 workshop series. Today, as you've seen from our outreach campaign and from our online schedule, we have two esteemed institutions. We have Miss Anna Weiss from Hamilton College, and we have Miss Nicole Bunsell from a Union College. And the session topic, as you've seen on our online schedule and of course in the outreach campaign, is the test optional holistic review at selective US liberal arts colleges and of course science colleges. We've received a lot of enthusiasm for this event prior to this program. So I'm really excited to have two very esteemed panelists who are going to be sharing in-depth information about this topic for the day. As I would like to also mention, as you may know, kindly post all the questions in the Q&A box and not in the chat box, so that it would be easier for the panelists to locate all your questions and for them to answer your questions. And I'm sure they'll be looking forward to answering many of the wonderful questions that you will be having. And having said that, I'm now going to be handing over the stage and the microphone to Miss Anna and to Miss Nicole. Miss Anna, Miss Nicole, I know it's very early in the morning. Thank you once again for your kind and valuable time, especially as college has started in the US. We know it's a busy time of the year, so we truly appreciate you taking your time out to meet the 12th graders, and we wish you the very best for this program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kunal. And I know we really appreciate this opportunity, and we're really glad to be able to talk with you. Normally at this time of year, both Nicole and I would be traveling, or institutions would be traveling to India. So this is the substitution, and we do very much wish we could be there in person with you. But until such a time, we are very grateful for these virtual opportunities to engage with you. My name is Dr. Anna Weiss. I am Associate Dean of Admission at Hamilton College, and very pleased to be with you today. I would love my colleague to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Bensley. I'm the Director of International Admissions at Union College in New York, and it's my pleasure to be with you today. Thank you.
So today, I consider myself quite an organized person, so I like to start with a little bit of a walkthrough of everything that we're going to cover today through the format. So Nicole, can we get the next slide?
You bet.
Thank you.
It's going a little slow. There we go.
Okay, so today we're going to have a bit of an outline for you so you know what to expect with today's presentation. We're going to start by overviewing what is a liberal arts and science college in the US, and then we're going to give you a little bit of information about each of our institutions. That way you'll be able to learn a little bit about Hamilton and Union, and also understand where some of our perspectives come from. After this, we're going to go and talk about the idea of applying test optional in a larger sense. So talking about how does this apply at each of our institutions, but also in the US college and university field in general. What do we mean when we use terms like test optional, like holistic review? You may hear these terms quite frequently and think, okay, so what does that mean in practical senses for me? We're going to try and get into some of those details and some of that helpful information for you throughout the presentation. We're also then going to talk about some opportunities for engagement, because as I mentioned earlier, we would all love to be in India right now. I know personally I would love to have some good thali. You can't get a good thali in my area. But until such a time, there is a very strong improved opportunity for engagement with US colleges and universities. We want to talk about some of those opportunities. Then we're going to talk about the role of admissions interviews, which may be something that you're interested in learning more about. And finally, we're going to overview financial aid and scholarship opportunities. Then we're going to have plenty of time for questions. So we do hope that you prepare some questions that you'd like to talk about. As Kunal said, we would ask that you please submit those questions in the Q&A box, and we will address all the questions submitted towards the end of the presentation. And with that, we're going to transition to our first topic, and my colleague, Nicole.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name's Nicole Bensley again, and we're going to talk a little bit about an overview of what liberal arts and science colleges mean. So for us here, when we talk about liberal arts and science colleges, and I want to emphasize the science part, often people hear the beginning part, the arts part, and forget that we have the science part too. So we tend to be focused not just on the arts, but many different majors. We have over 58 majors and minors at Union. But what our focus really is, and the reason we talk about the liberal arts and sciences, is small class sizes. So really focusing focusing on the engagement between professors and students in intimate settings, both in the classrooms or with research opportunities, but a space really where students can learn directly from PhD professors throughout their 4 years. And I think that's important to think that our professors are teaching you in your classes. Our professors are mentoring you through your time on campus. They're working with you in the lab spaces, providing you with opportunities for research. And all of that happens because we're an institution that's focused on all undergraduate. We're focused on your success in your first 4 years in college. So the reason we're special, I think, number one is sort of that intimate opportunity to connect with your professors, to really be fully supported by them. And also the focus is all on you as an undergraduate. Also the flexibility and freedom. So I think sometimes students misunderstand liberal arts and sciences and the fact that you can take many classes and confuse it with the fact that you're still going to go deep into whatever major you choose. You're going to get very specified and very deep into the content. If you choose engineering, your classes will be very deep in engineering. But the beauty of being at a liberal arts and science college is that you can explore other academic areas as well. And this is really what makes our students and our alumni really successful, is that if you are studying engineering, but you also have courses in anthropology or psychology, those courses can inform you in terms of the type of work you do and really make you a leader in your field once you've left our college. And so that ability to continue to not only study things outside of your major or majors that are interesting to you, but also the ways that they inform what you're studying and inform the things that you're doing and how you are going to be successful when you leave. Finally, adaptability. The hallmark of a liberal arts and science college is really to prepare you not just for your first job or not just the world as it exists today, but for every world that exists in the future. Things have changed a lot in the last year and a lot in the last 10 years, I'll say, in terms of my experiences. So we really prepare students to be adaptable and to be able to think critically about content they're reviewing, not just to take in information and regurgitate it, but to think critically about it, assess it, and to be able to problem solve by using different perspectives and approaching different material from different perspectives. And then, of course, another hallmark is the communication ability. All of our students, regardless of your discipline, are taught to be well-spoken, well-read, well-written, so that, again, no matter what field you're pursuing, you're able to express yourself in a way that is compelling.
So I think we're going to transition now and talk about our institutions for just a moment. Again, we wanted to familiarize you with both of our colleges. And remember that in the United States, the term college can also mean undergraduate college, bachelor's level college, which is one of the focal points and the focus points for colleges of liberal arts and science in the US. So Hamilton College, which is the institution where I work, is a selective college of liberal arts with an open curriculum. So all of the subjects that Nicole was talking about with benefits of liberal arts and sciences courses, which celebrate the opportunity to study a variety of academic subjects and understand how those academic subjects can help to provide texture and understanding to the world around us. Hamilton College is such a liberal arts college, but we take this a little bit further, where we have an open curriculum. We like to use the term study what you love. And the idea is that students should have the opportunity to follow academic passions and interests throughout their studies at Hamilton under very careful academic mentorship and guidance. So we have an open curriculum, which means there are no standard courses that every student has to take. Every student charts their own academic path at Hamilton College with very careful academic advising. We do have a 9-to-1 student-faculty ratio. And for each academic subject that you choose to have a major in, you will still have a major. You would have an academic advisor who would help you make sure that you're meeting requirements for that program. And also, you would be paired with a career advisor. Your career advisor works with you the summer before you arrive at Hamilton College to help you think about, as Nicole said, we don't want to prepare for just the first job you have outside of college. We really want to think about what types of big world problems and challenges exist that you'd like to learn more about and be part of the solution after you graduate, so that then when you graduate, you'll be able to have a meaningful, impactful career that will be very fulfilling for you and helpful for society. So that sounds very grand, but that just says that we have a career advisor who will work with you individually starting the summer before you even come to Hamilton. And their role is to help make sure that you have internship and research experiences throughout your studies that will prepare you for a meaningful life and career after you graduate from Hamilton. Now, another promise that Hamilton makes, in addition to study what you love, is that we guarantee to meet 100% of the demonstrated financial need for all admitted students. This means if you are admitted to Hamilton College, we promise to you that we will ensure a Hamilton education is affordable to you through our financial aid system. We do unfortunately not have merit scholarships or athletic scholarships. Instead, we choose to use all of our financial resources to ensure that a Hamilton education is affordable to students from around the world, regardless of their ability to pay. We are located in central New York. Both Nicole and I have very similar locations. We're about an hour and a half apart, but in the central New York region, we are just under 2,000 students. Now, as I mentioned, we have an open curriculum, but throughout our curriculum, we are very well known as strong writers and communicators. We're actually in the top 10 in the United States for interdisciplinary writing, which means if you come to Hamilton, even if you're a great writer, we will improve your writing throughout our studies. But we also have strong focus on undergraduate research, which is something you will find at liberal arts and sciences colleges, because they don't have such a focus on graduates, postgraduate studies. They focus all of their resources instead on bachelor's level students. So at Hamilton College, we spend $500,000 each year supporting about 200 bachelor's level students in research opportunities over the summer. So if you're interested in research opportunities, Hamilton and Union may both be strong options for you. I wanted to also indicate some of our deadlines here. We're happy to talk about this towards the end if you have questions about actually applying to our institutions, but our deadlines are listed below. I think we're ready for the next slide. The next slide is just going to be some very beautiful pictures of our campus once it comes.
Sorry, it's on a little bit of a delay, but it's already flipped on my end, so it should be with you shortly.
There we go. All right. And this is an important note as well. So when we say New York, oftentimes we think New York City, but both Nicole and my institutions are about 4 hours. We're about 4 hours from New York City, about 4 hours from Montreal, and from Boston as well in central New York. And you can see we have very, very beautiful surroundings with trees and classical architecture along with modern architecture. So I'm ready to turn over to my colleague Nicole to talk about Union.
Thank you, Anna. So I'm going to flip slides and hope at some point they flip for everyone else too. So Union College is located in Schenectady, New York, which is right near Albany, actually. We're about 20 minutes from the Albany International Airport. And Albany actually is the capital of New York State. I think a lot of people think New York City, and it's actually Albany. We are in the capital region. So basically the cluster of cities around the capital of New York State. So I think our location is pretty special, but Schenectady, our city, is 75,000 people. So again, it's a smaller, safe city for students to be able to come, study, engage in all sorts of fun activities. We're 3 hours by train or bus to New York City, Boston, and Montreal. So the location, as Anna said, is pretty ideal. And you can see here a picture of our campus. We were founded in 1795. We're a planned park-like setting, so it's sort of the idyllic Northeast campus that you might have in mind when you think about college in the US. And for us, when we were founded, Union was founded with the ideal of bringing together people in Union from different backgrounds to learn and grow together. And I think that that mission still today is important as we think about navigating our current society. As we were founded in 1795, shortly after, our campus community decided to add beyond our liberal arts and science majors, a major or several majors in engineering. So I'd say one of the things that really makes Union unique is that we have multiple majors in engineering, where our students, once they complete after 4 years, are ABET certified to work as engineers. And the reason I mention this is not that everyone wants to be an engineer, but it really focuses on a couple hallmarks of our education. So the first being our campus's early commitment to students taking what they're learning and putting it into action in applicable ways. So whether you're interested in psychology or you're interested in economics or data science or chemistry or astrophysics, what you're going to do is to take what you're learning and put it into action in state-of-the-art labs and facilities. So Union's been rated top 10 in the nation for our lab and research facilities for a long time. And what that means is students really get a reflective Research One level experience at the undergraduate level, regardless of what discipline they're studying in. The other piece is really a commitment, and it's somewhat new for students to have proficiency and beyond the things we talked about with the liberal arts and sciences, but Union's shifting to make its general education requirements to make sure that everyone is proficient in things like data science. No matter what field you go into, likely you're going to be working with data, technology. All of our students should be incredibly proficient in technology based on how it focuses on their discipline. So for me, I was a psychology student. What type of instrumentation, what type of programs will I need to assess the information I have? We're fortunate to have 3 Fortune 500 CEOs from tech companies that really come back as alumni and engage with our community and talk about what the things they're looking for and how to sort of navigate our curriculum and support our students for success. Much like Anna said, we're a all undergraduate school, 2,200 students on average with a small student to faculty ratio. We're about 13% international on average with our students coming from all over the world, but quite a lot from India every year, which is exciting. Our majors and minors are vast, and you can find those listed on our website. But again, the interesting thing for Union is that now it's about 80% of our students study in more than one discipline. So as I mentioned earlier, I have a student who's interested in astrophysics, but he's also taking some economics courses because he wants to look at how he could maybe run a startup as a part or a component of the work that he's doing. So students are able to take courses, major, minor, or even organize their own majors across disciplines. And that's the majority of our students that are having that opportunity. We do offer at Union the opportunity for both need-based financial aid based on the CSS profile. We award merit scholarships automatically based on students' application for admission, up to $25,000 per year per student, that's US. And then in terms of other scholarship opportunities, we are a proud partner with the Next Genius Foundation, which I encourage you to take a look at if you're interested. Our application deadlines are listed there. And with that, I will conclude my little talk on Union and turn it over to Anna to talk a little bit more about testing.
Thank you. Thank you. So when we talk about test optional, the first thing that's important to understand is what types of testings are optional, right? Seems pretty obvious. So when you're applying to the United States for a bachelor's level program, it's important to know that there's generally 2 types of tests that are required. The first is an academic base, so that would be the SAT test. If you're familiar with the SAT test, also the ACT, you have 2 choices usually. The second would be an English proficiency test. Now it's important to know what are the roles that these play in application review. Now, for institutions this year particularly, both of our institutions will be SAT or ACT optional, which means truly the SAT test will not be required for admission to our institutions this year. The SAT test and the ACT are meant to be academic assessments, so there are subjects in them such as mathematics, such as literature comprehension, verbal sections, and they are all offered solely in person at testing centers. Since a lot of these testing centers were closed and affected by the pandemic, and we know students don't have the opportunity that they traditionally would, most colleges and universities at this point, I think it's over 90%, have said that they will not require an SAT or ACT test this year. So when you hear the term test optional, generally you should think the SAT or ACT is optional, because the other type of test is an English proficiency test. Now, the English language proficiency test really only measures exactly what it says, types of English skills for academic preparation. Now, most institutions will not be English language proficiency optional, and that includes Hamilton particularly. And I believe Union as well, right? Union as well. And the reason for this is that you have multiple options to fulfill this requirement. Some institutions will fulfill the requirement based on curriculum that you're studying. but some institutions will also accept a variety of types of tests. So for instance, there is the TOEFL, there is the IELTS, which are the traditional tests that students would take. A lot of colleges, including both of our colleges, are now accepting the Duolingo English test as well. The Duolingo English test can be taken online in less than 1 hour for less than $50 US. So you can submit an English test without having to travel to a variety of testing centers that may have been canceled. In addition, there are options of online TOEFL and IELTS courses. So if you'd prefer to take an IELTS because you've been preparing for that, you can take an IELTS indicator test online without traveling. So since we have multiple options for you to fulfill English proficiency requirements with online tests that you can take, most of our institutions are not test optional. It's also important to note that for liberal arts and sciences colleges in the United States, we have strong focus on writing and communication, which means that it's very, very crucial to us that we can verify that all students who are coming to Hamilton and Union are set up for success, and English language testing is really part of that. But we assure you we have multiple options for you to meet that. Now, when you're considering a college that is test optional in your application review, it's important again to understand that optional means SAT, ACT, not optional means English proficiency. Now, the follow-up question that students would then ask, which is a fair question, is, okay, if you don't have testing, what are you going to evaluate instead? Now, at liberal arts and colleges, we have what's called a holistic application review. Now, I think that people talk about that term quite frequently and don't explain what they mean when they use it. So we're going to explain in the next slide what do we mean when we say holistic application review. But this means that we've never been similar to an IIT, where it's an exam that you take, and based on that exam result is what dictates if you are admitted or not. We have always considered multiple aspects to your application. Nicole's going to get into this a little bit more later. But it means that when we don't have testing, we can still rely on the strategy we've always used, which is considering all of the different aspects of your application for admission review. That said, every college and university around the world, I think, the most important part of your application will always be your mark sheets and your exams. So these are still the most important part of an application under holistic review, but we will be able to consider your application without testing. And with that, we'll turn it over to my colleague, Nicole. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Anna. One thing I did want to mention too, another follow-up question sometimes to test optional is, what if I want to send my SAT, my SAT scores or my ACT scores? Optional doesn't mean they're not allowed. So there are some schools that are completely test blind, meaning they do not look at test scores at all. Test optional means that if you'd like to send them, we'll absolutely accept them. But if you are not able to or do not want to, that's absolutely fine as well. So Anna started to talk a little bit about what does it mean to have holistic review. And what I would like to amplify here is that for schools that have long been holistic in review, so schools like ours, this is not a new concept for us. And to be test optional is not a difficult switch for us, because it's in essence what we've done all along. This is not a new way for us to assess students and admit students. We've been doing this for our entire time as institutions. And what that means, like Anna said, is that we're going to look at all the other pieces of your application, but there might be some pieces that you didn't think about before now if you were thinking about submitting test scores. And so we're going to absolutely talk about those, how to fill in some of the voids that are there, particularly for students. So if you're in an IB program or you're in a AP program or AO level program, that prepares you in English, but what happens if you're not in that program? And what happens if you don't have progress testing or progress transcripts? For example, many of the Indian board exams, we have your year 10, and then there's not much in between. What do you do in the interim to reflect your abilities? So the first thing that we're going to do is mention that we sit down, Anna and I, or one of our colleagues sit down, and we read everything that's in your application. For many of the large schools, because they're so large and they have many applications, much of the initial review is automatic. They'll assess your scores or particular parts of your grades and activities with an auto count, and then that's how they filter out through a formula some of their applicants. For schools like Hamilton and Union, colleagues like ours sit down together and we read through every single piece in your application before any sort of preliminary decision is made. And I think that really allows students to have a chance to be considered and to make sure that, again, every part of your application is considered rather than just one component. The other thing is that academics are really personal, and especially right now with the changes in the environment of virtual learning, with maybe change in curriculum or change in course offerings or assessments, it's really important that people on our end at the colleges sit down and take a look. What has this student been experiencing in the last year? What will you experience in the year going forward? There been transitional challenges with going virtual that we should know about and pay attention to? Are you really great in some classes, but you know what? This one class, it's not your thing. This one subject, that's not your strength. We pay attention to all of those things, and I just think it's going to be even more important now that things have gotten a little crazy with the online virtual options during the time of COVID. The other thing is that we are compelled at our universities. There was a question in the chat about our international populations. Both Hamilton and Union have very rich international populations and have for a long time. And the reason that we are supportive of that and really recruit international students to come is that we want our campuses to be reflective of the world our students, our graduates will go into. So reflecting diverse backgrounds, both in terms of citizenship, but also how they were raised, where in the US they even come from. Are they students with financial means or not with financial means, religious backgrounds? We really want a diverse community so our students can really gain a lot of knowledge and experience from that rich environment. So that only can happen through a holistic review where we can look for ways to bring in students with different interests and different backgrounds to share in our community. The other great part, a lot of times students, it's really great to know what's your cutoff, what's your GPA cutoff, what's your SAT cutoff, what are the minimum IB scores required. And the thing is that can be reassuring to some degree because you can decide really quickly if you're above or below that cutoff. But we can give you our averages at schools like ours. But the reality is that, you know what, if someone's really fascinating and they might be a little bit below what our average is, but they're doing amazing things. And guess what? They've come into their own the last couple of years. We're going to say, you know what? This student's gonna be great on our campus, and maybe we wanna take them even though they're a little below our average. So there's no real firm cutoff in a place like Union or Hamilton. I think that really makes us it just provides an opportunity for us to get a much more diverse and interesting mix of students on our campus. There was also a question about how selective. What does that mean for us if we're selective colleges? So I just like to say, you know, at Union, we admit about 35% of our students. Anna, what is it at Hamilton in terms of your selectivity?
So for the past 3 years, it's varied a little, but it's been between 16 and 22%.
So just to give you a sense of the different selectivity. So we're going to move on to a little bit of how does this holistic, we've talked a little bit about how does holistic review help us with test optional then. So again, in absence of a SAT or ACT score, we need to have some things that fill in the void of what may have happened. So if we only have year 10 boards and then nothing after that, we have to have a way to fill in sort of what has been happening with you in the interim. So what we do is we kind of go through and look at things that are listed here. So how do we really think about a student in terms of their capability in our classrooms, on our campus? What types of research have you been doing? What types of outside activities have you been engaging with that maybe enrich you in unique ways? So we really dig into what you've been doing outside of just the classroom for sure. But to the point under holistic review, we really are going to look at your marks sheets. So what types of classes have you been taking? Have you been challenging yourself? Tell us a little bit more about the type of school curriculum you're in. How do you think what your academics are doing now prepare you for the future? So we're going to look at what's in how you've done in your board exams or your current exams, how you've done with your transcripts and the course selection and how it feeds into your interests. And then also, you know, English language proficiency is still important. So making sure that we have evidence of that in some way. Anna talked about all the different ways that we'll consider as well as an additional piece within the engagement component she'll talk about as well. So the question is, how do I know if I should send my SAT or ACT scores or not? Or how do I know if they're beneficial to me? And what I would say is for both of our schools and for many, take a look at the incoming class or ask what our incoming class averages were for the 2023-2024 profile, and decide, does this reflect me in a good light for this college? Does it say that I'm above average, or I've achieved above the minimum or sort of average range that this school or this incoming class is at? And if it is, that might give you a good idea of where you might place in terms of testing. Is it an accurate reflection of your ability? Do you look at your SAT scores and think, wow, my academics in high school are good, but my SAT scores are amazing and they definitely reflect my ability? Then you may want to send them. If you look at your academics and your transcripts in school and you think, I'm doing really great in school and it's really where I shine. And that SAT exam, it was raining and the thunder was pounding outside, or it was hot in there and I just didn't do my best and it's not a reflection, then maybe you don't send it. But really just kind of considering how well it reflects based on our average students and how well it reflects on you, I think is an important component. So Anna's going to talk a little bit more about, I think, a piece that fits well with what to do in absence of testing, and that's really the engagement piece. So I'm going to turn that over to her at this time.
Thank you, Nicole. So as Nicole said, that using the holistic review means that we can take a lot of different aspects into account. And one of those would be engagement with colleges. Now, you might ask, what is engagement? What do we mean by engagement? So when Nicole and I are talking about considering students for academic and for admission at our institutions, we're really thinking about two major aspects. The first, would this student be academically successful if we brought them to our institution? Both of our colleges have quite rigorous academic work, and we need to make sure that students are successful, which is why mark sheets and transcripts and examination results will always be very, very crucial to your admission process. But the second that we're interested in considering is, what type of a community member would you be if we were to bring you to our colleges? So both of us have a very strong residential community here at Hamilton and at Union, which means that students live on campus for their studies and participate in activities and clubs and organizations. And we really want to know from you a little bit about what type of person are you, and also what type of community member would you be if we were to bring you to college. So for that reason, we have opportunities for engagement. And you can really think of engagement as an opportunity for us to get to know you and for you to get to know us. So each of us speaking, Nicole and I, we are human beings, and we are complex, and we are interested also in getting to know you as human beings. So each of you is a specific human being who brings your own perspectives, your own talents, your own interests potentially to our college. So we want to know, what are those talents, interests, and how would you potentially fit into our community were we to bring you to our college? So in order to engage with us, what types of strategies can you use? The first is you can sign up for some of our databases. Now, both Nicole and I shared earlier on, and we'll share again towards the end of the presentation, links where you can sign up for more information about Hamilton College or more information about Union College. So if you decide you want to engage with us, that is a great first step. Now, sometimes you might hear the word demonstrated interest, and that sounds a little scary. What is that? Basically, it just means when we talked about our selectivity, it means that there are more students who apply each year who would potentially be successful academically than we have positions on our campus. So we want to know, if we were to, if we're considering your application, why is it that you'd be interested in Union? Why is it that you'd be interested in Hamilton? So this is just a fancier way of talking about engagement again. So your opportunities for demonstrated interest is to say, I already know why Union. I'm interested in Union's Abbott engineering program. I know that's quite a unique thing for a liberal arts and sciences college. Or I'm interested in Hamilton. I know that open curriculum and writing is important to me. I'd be interested in pursuing that angle. So it gives us an opportunity to get to know personally, why do you think you would be a great community member? at Hamilton or at Union. Now, with that said, we want to make sure that you have many opportunities to engage with us, even though we're not able to be in India eating dosas together. So we offered virtual programming opportunities for you. The first is most colleges and universities across the United States right now are heavily investing in developing a lot of virtual engagement opportunities for students such as you. And these will be opportunities for you to do interviews with us. And we'll talk about interviews in a moment if you're like, oh, what's an interview? We'll talk about it. Student panels and chats, also virtual open houses, and opportunities for you to engage with current students as well. So if you'd want to engage with a current Indian student at Union or Hamilton, those types of opportunities are available. You can also, of course, always email with admission officers. Both Nicole and I are featured on our websites as the primary contact for international admission at our institutions. And if you have questions that you cannot find answered on our website, we are always very happy to engage with you. I've included 2 URLs here, which again, we'll include in the chat box at the end, so you can also click on them if you would like. And they feature our virtual websites, which have these opportunities for virtual engagement. Now, with that said, I'm going to do one more thing, which is both Nicole and I are participating in a virtual fair, college fair format. So the idea behind this fair is that there will be 5 colleges or universities from our same geographic region, very high quality institutions, who will have admission officers available to talk with you in local time zones on a recurring basis. So I'm going to go ahead and use in the chat box, I'm going to put a link to this virtual recurring fair. And you can feel free, if you're interested, to register. And it's another opportunity for you to get to know us and some of our peer colleges across the region. We're ready to go to the next slide. So basically, it provides a great opportunity, even though we're not able to be in person, to be able to engage with you virtually. Okay, so I mentioned very quickly interviews. Now, this is something that's important because while both Nicole and I will be SAT, ACT optional this year, students are always interested to say, okay, what types of opportunities would compensate for lack of testing? And as we are not going to be requiring additional requirements to compensate for lack of testing, we've already talked to you about our holistic review strategy. We are going to be sometimes emphasizing this engagement aspect. One of the best ways to engage with colleges is through an interview. Now, the interview will be usually with either an admissions staff member or an alumni of the institution. And basically, we're going to be asking you questions that says, what types of subjects did you study? If you were in a stream, how did you select that stream? What would you be interested in pursuing if you came to our college? What types of extracurriculars would you have? So these interviews are not designed to trick you by any means. They're really to get to know you more as a person and be able to imagine you as a member of our community. So if you're interested in a selective college in the United States, this can be a great opportunity for you, particularly since all of these interviews can be done generally virtually. So you wouldn't have to travel in order to have those opportunities. So a couple questions that you can ask of colleges and universities. Are interviews offered? Are interviews required or recommended? Because some places they will have them required for some colleges or universities. Neither of our college has it as a requirement, but they are optional. Another question to ask is, are these interviews evaluative or informational? So this means sometimes colleges will offer the opportunity for you to call an admission officer or a admission staff member just to ask questions. And it's really just an opportunity for you to ask your questions verbally and get to know the school. That would be an informational interview. Then there is the evaluative type, which is where the college will then ask you questions as well and consider it as part of engagement in the application process. So it's a good question to ask, is this interview evaluative or informational? Now, types of interviews, there are 2 different options usually for students to submit interviews. The first would be one given by college admission officers or senior students in the admission office or alumni. That's the one I was describing. Now, it gives you the opportunity to connect with an individual college or university and ask your specific questions. However, some colleges or universities have limitations on these offerings, which means that you might have a limited time frame to request. So they might say, we're accepting interviews over the month of December and January. So there's a question to ask, do they have coverage? And you can really send an email to them and say, hey, I would like to have an interview. Is there a process or a step that you should follow through? The second type of interview is through an external provider. So there's two types of providers. They are called Initial View and Veracant. And what they do is they allow you to record a general interview where you will have an interview with a staff member from one of those two companies. And they will record about a half-an-hour interview, and they'll ask you similar questions. Tell us about a project in school that you were very passionate about, or tell us about your family. What types of relationships do you have with your family? Those types of questions, not tricky. Again, just trying to get to know you as a person. Now, the benefit for this is that you can send it to multiple colleges and universities. So you only have to do one interview. You don't have to do multiples. And also the colleges can refer back to them through the application review process. So we can watch it multiple times if we want more clarification about different points. Of course, the negative part for that is you don't get to then ask the specific questions about the college or university. So there's trade-offs for both types. I think we're ready for the next slide. But it is, if you are interested in a college, this can be a really great opportunity for you to get to know them better and also for them to get to know you better.
Sorry, doing all the buttons. So I was just typing in the comment box. There was a really great question. Really, I think key to what Anna was just talking about, which is how should I dress for these interviews? What should I look like? And so I'm going to answer that question right now just to get that out of the way. We expect you to look like a student. So if you want to wear what you wear to school, that's great. You know, if you want to wear something nice, but not, if you would like to wear a suit or a dress, you may, but it's in no way expected. Typically for interviews, oftentimes we interview at schools or students will meet us right after school. So we really expect you to look like a student. So feel comfortable really reflecting that in terms of how you dress. Don't feel the need to really jazz it up, but if you'd like to, that's entirely up to you. Sometimes you need, especially in the time of COVID, maybe you need an excuse to get dressed up and comb your hair a little bit more. Even from just the waist up, you may have casual clothes on from the waist down, but maybe just if you need that excuse, feel free. We will absolutely be excited about that. So financial aid and scholarships. Anna and I are, I think, maybe going to tag team this a little bit because I think it's important for us to answer our institutional things as well. There's a lot of questions, and one of the first things I want to talk about in here, so this will address some of the questions that are listed in the Q&A. What types of scholarships available? So that's a good question to ask schools. Hamilton does not have merit scholarships. They have need-based scholarships. Union has both merit and need-based. Some schools just have merit, some have none. So I think it's important to ask that question of each of the schools that you're applying to and being really conscious and honest about what your family can pay. I'd say, do you meet 100% of demonstrated need? So that's a good question to ask, but I think it's important to understand, what does that mean? What does demonstrated need mean? And demonstrated need, not enough coffee this morning. Need means that not what your family has said they can pay. Okay, so your family may say they can pay X amount, and that may have to do with a lot of different varying factors. But schools do not meet need based on what your family has indicated. Schools meet need based on what the information you've put in that financial aid form they're asking you to fill out. So that could be the CSS profile, or the International Financial Aid form, or another form that they've asked you to complete. But our demonstrated need, 100% meeting demonstrated need, is based on our calculations within that. We could calculate that you need more than you anticipate. We could calculate that you need less than you anticipate. But it really is based on the information that you put into those forms. So asking that question, though, 100% of demonstrated need. The other question I would ask is, need based on what? So some schools will award financial aid only based on the cost of tuition. Some schools will award financial aid based on the entire cost of attendance, which can be even more. So tuition, room, so your housing, your food, insurance, all of your things. So it's important to ask when schools are talking about financial aid or need-based scholarships, you ask the question, is that just towards tuition or towards the cost of attendance? And I believe Anna and I, Hamilton and Union, are on the same page. We award financial aid based on cost of attendance. We want to make sure that, you know, you can cover all of the costs, not just tuition. So that's a good question to ask. This question was in the chat, and I think it's important. Are SAT and ACT scores required for scholarships? At Union? No. At Hamilton? No. At some schools, yes. So I think you have to be very careful, because they may be, I've heard from a couple counselors this year reporting that students applied, were admitted based on test optional, but were not considered for merit, because for merit, the test scores are required. So I think it's very important to verify what is required for merit. And I wish it was consistent across all colleges and universities in the US to make it so much easier. It's so difficult, I know, to apply to schools in the US because everything is different, but you really do have to check in with each school, and these are important questions to ask. So at Union and Hamilton, SAT and ACT optional means optional for everything: optional for admission, optional for merit scholarships, optional for financial aid. So you don't have to worry about that. Are interviews required is a great question. So at Union College, interviews are required. Anna, at Hamilton, they are not required. So it's a good question to ask, to know as a part of your application, what's required to be most competitive for admission. What are the ways to engage in that way? So at Union, like Anna said, we offer interviews right through your application portal with someone at Union College, or Initial View or Vericant. But it allows us, India is one of our largest applicant pools, and it allows us to get to know students and make a more informed decision based on your application. How do I apply for funding? Also, just very different at every school. So deadlines differ by application plan. If they're early decision, early action, regular decision, is the timing different? Are the requirements different? So for example, at Union College, you have to complete the CSS profile within 5 to 10 days of the application deadline, because when we admit students, we award your financial aid right away. Anna, the same at Hamilton? Yeah, so a lot of schools that offer need-based financial aid, you're going to have to submit those forms at the time that you're applying or shortly after the deadline. But schools are different. Some wait and award financial aid if they're not meeting 100% need. They can wait and just decide what they want to award you in terms of financial aid later. So I think it's good to look and see what those deadlines are and what forms are required. Again, it's very different at every school. If it's the CSS profile, if it's their own form, I think it's important to just take a look and see what form they're requiring for need-based aid, but we have listed there what the traditional forms are. Anna, anything I missed on financial aid and scholarships that you'd like to add?
So I don't think we really talked about things like plans, early decision versus early action, but I think that the important note on releasing scholarship decisions at the same time as admissions decisions is that colleges like Nicole and my college, we are not going to expect you to confirm your admissions decision without understanding the financial aid implications. And one of the admissions plans that we have, early decision, both of us have this. This is an option for students to say, Union is my absolute favorite college and I would love to enroll there if I'm admitted. Or Hamilton is my top choice college and I will enroll there if I'm admitted. It's considered a binding plan, which can be a little scary. You might think, why would I apply someplace if I am promising I will enroll there after admitting, if I can choose another plan, which gives me still flexibility. So the idea behind that plan is that it gives us, again, an idea of these students are very, very passionate about our colleges, and we generally have higher admission rates under early decision plan. Mm-hmm. But it can be scary to think, oh, well, then will I be trapped to go to that college and I can't afford it, right? Remember, though, that we release our admissions decisions and our financial aid decisions at the same time. So if you apply to one of our colleges under this binding early decision plan, which does have higher admission rates, we will release you from that binding nature of the plan if we can't agree on financial aid. So you should not feel like that's a limitation factor. If you're very passionate about one of our colleges or a college in the United States, consider the early decision plan. It could be a great option for you. And if financial aid does not work out, we will release you from that plan. That's the only thing
I would say Too. Thank you, Anna. I want to add to that if you don't mind. For Union, our largest financial aid awards are awarded in early decision. And the reason for that is that, maybe much like Hamilton, we meet a student's designated need, and that can be very high. And I always compare it to when I go to the grocery store. I have a budget, and there are a lot of delicious things at the grocery store that I really would like. They're beautiful, they sound very interesting, but I have a budget. And so I have to decide how many things and make difficult choices on those delicious things before I get to the cash register. And so early decision allows us, based on our budget, to make difficult decisions because we're more selective the higher the student's need is, because we only can offer so many of those awards. It allows us to make those decisions and know clearly when it comes time to enroll, we will have not over-enrolled students that would really detriment our budget in terms of financial aid. So not to compare you to a delicious, watermelon or something, but students are equally as wonderful and diverse. And it's not like we're making choices over who's better or who's worse. We have a lot of really great choices and just have to make really difficult decisions. So that's another reason, maybe if you found a place you really love, to consider early decision. So with that, I'm going to flip to our last slide with our contact information. I think I've repaired the Union link. My apologies, it expired once we started, a fluke on my end. It should be repaired now for you to register on Union's registration site. Hamilton's is listed there as well. We've offered you an opportunity also to register to get to know a little bit more about our schools and other Central New York schools at another event. So I just remind you of those things, and that Anna and I are super fun to talk with. So please email us, sign up for interviews with us. We miss being in India. I'll say again, the dose is probably what I miss the most, honestly. But we miss being there, eating the great food, meeting your parents, meeting you, and having a chance to really sit down with you and learn more about you in person. But take a chance to get to know us and talk with us a little bit more about your interests and a little bit about what you'd like to do in the future. The interviews typically are incredibly fun. So with that, Anna, do you want to navigate the Q&A, or would you like me to?
I'm very happy to do so. So I think we did answer a couple of these going through. Somebody has asked, can you please explain how undergraduate students can pursue an interdisciplinary mix of biology and creative writing? So I think that's really, if you're interested in things as different as biology and creative writing, you want to consider a liberal arts and sciences college. This is what we do. I know at Hamilton, about 20% of our students are double majors, is what we call this. So they have two primary focus areas that they're pursuing. And they can absolutely be biology and creative writing. So both of our curriculums are designed with a liberal arts and science base, which is flexible enough to allow students to pursue more than one academic subject area. So of course, India, a lot of the education system is designed in streams. And I assure you that the stream model is very different than a liberal arts and science degree. Studying between biology and creative writing would be very, very possible at both of our institutions. And about 20% of our students, Nicole, what's your percentage of students who double major?
So about 80% of our students are working across multiple disciplines, and about 60% will double major. So it's a pretty high number at Union.
Wow. So absolutely an option at both of our institutions. 60% is amazing. Okay.
But it's easy. I would say it's an easy option at liberal arts and science colleges. That's just what we do, right? So it's just what students elect at different places, but absolutely easy to do at liberal arts and science colleges.
So we had a question for merit and need-based scholarships. Do you want to take that again? Just recap real quick, Nicole?
Sure. So what we offer for merit and need-based financial aid,
How do you apply?
How do you apply? Sure. Merit, automatically you're considered for merit scholarships when you apply for college. So when you apply to Union, as we're reading your application, we make a decision on merit scholarships based on our criteria. And those are awarded automatically. They range up to $25,000 per year, US dollars. And once you have them for all 4 years that you're at Union. Need-based financial aid is based on the CSS profile and must be submitted around, within about a week or two of the application deadline.
And at Hamilton College, we do not have merit-based scholarships, so we only have need-based scholarships. So it'll be based on those financial aid forms. And we have a special section on our website, I'm sure Union does as well, which is International Student Financial Aid Application Steps. So if you're a little confused, you can visit our website, so we have that information for you. Okay, so let's talk then about, will students be able to apply for resident assistant programs on campus? I can take this one. So one of the special things that our colleges offer is that all of our opportunities are regardless to students, regardless of citizenship. So research opportunities available to international students, athletic opportunities available to international students, resident assistants available to international students. So if we bring you to our campus, we are making you a promise, which is that all of the opportunities we have for students will be available for you as well. So absolutely, you can be a resident assistant, which means that you would work in a residence hall and you would help support other students living in that residence hall. Okay, question. Do your respective colleges offer internships to students so as to apply our skills learned during the program of study? I'm going to answer really quickly and give you an opportunity to answer. So we have it, actually, when we surveyed students who graduated last year, 97% of our students who graduated last year had at least one internship or research experience during their studies. 81% of our students said they had at least two. So most of our students will have internships or research experiences at Hamilton College. We have a unique internship experience that I want to talk about really quickly, which is we have city-based semesters. So we mentioned that we're in the center of New York State, not New York City. However, we have a program at Hamilton where you can spend a semester living in New York City or in Boston or in Washington, DC, and these are internship design semesters. So you would have a full-time internship during the week for an entire semester. Live in New York City, you'd have an internship maybe at Wall Street. Then you would take classes in the evening with about 15 other Hamilton students who are also having an internship in one of those city locations, and a Hamilton professor who has traveled with you to the city location. So you can think about it as an off-campus semester study in one of the most exciting East Coast cities with internship options. And they're available to students in all majors at Hamilton. Nicole?
So I'll say what she said in terms of internships. We have over 500 companies and organizations each year that engage with our students. And remembering we only have 2,200 students, all undergraduate, that engage with our students each year in terms of internships. We have similar city programs throughout the East Coast. We also have a Silicon Valley entrepreneurship program where two of our faculty and one of our alumni based in Silicon Valley mentor students through internships, and then looking at innovative entrepreneurial programs, and that's open to all disciplines as well. So one of my favorite students is an anthropology student. He went and had an opportunity to sort of merge those interests and majors together. We have internships around the world as well. So remembering that if you have interests that take you to Germany, we have a program in Germany that our students often engage in. Singapore, if you're looking at the UK, but around the US and around the world, internships are really a part of a hallmark of what we do. And I think part of the reason our students are so successful, and I think, Anna, we can just launch into that a little bit. Both of our schools, placement is really high, meaning almost 100% for jobs or graduate school within 6 months of graduation. And for India this year, all of our Indian alums in 2020 who just graduated, we have 100% placement in OPT and job placement in the US, 100%, even in this year of all sorts of crazy things happening, and 100% placement in graduate schools that are incredibly selective. And I think part of that has to do really with the intense engagement with research and internships students do at our schools.
Absolutely. So I think our percentage is 97%. So 10 months after you've graduated from Hamilton, 97% of our students are either employed or in graduate school. So we're very proud of those outcomes. And both of our colleges have very, very strong alumni networks as well around the world who will help you to find job opportunities and also offer a mentorship program. I know Hamilton has a mentorship program that works for international students in their senior year, where we pair international senior students, so graduating students, with international alumni who are able to then support them through their transitions off campus and into the workforce or into postgraduate school. So I think that we had a question then, which is quite a quick answer, which is, due to a wide variety of majors and minors available, can students apply as undecided then arrive on campus and choose afterwards? And how many majors or minors do students usually pursue? So I think that I could take this one because it's pretty, liberal arts colleges, we specialize in exploration. So a lot of us, including Hamilton, does not actually allow students to come in with a specific major. So if you tell us, I'm going to major in psychology, we say, great, we'll have you take some psychology classes, but you're only allowed to declare your major your second year. And this is really a focal point of liberal arts and sciences colleges, is that we want students to explore. Now, traditionally, students would have one major and maybe one minor. As Nicole said, a lot of students will double major as well. Triple major is pretty crazy. You see it every once in a while, and the student looks very tired and running around. So triple major is probably a lot, but a single or double major, very possible. Okay, question, somebody says, would it be possible to go over application and scholarship deadlines so we can write them again? Absolutely. I think our scholarship and application deadlines are fairly consistent, correct?
Yes. I think November 1 for ED and EA.
So we're
Is that
November
yours?
15th, but similar.
Okay.
So,
Why don't you go first on it, and then I'll run through the union ones.
so we have,
I'll try and go back to your slide.
We have 3 deadlines at Hamilton. Early decision 1, which is our earliest application deadline, is November 15. Early decision 2, which we say early decision for the procrastinators amongst us, is January 1st, and regular decision is January 1st. So you can see that here. So those would be our deadlines. Our requirements, as I think you talked about application, no, it's really just deadlines. So I think that's fine.
And your financial aid deadline?
Our financial aid deadline is technically, it's going to be listed the same deadlines on our website. You have about a 10-day window outside of those deadlines where you can submit your financial aid documents.
Okay, and so I'm bringing up Union College's application deadlines here as well. Early action, November 1st, early decision 1, November 1st, early decision 2, January 15th, regular decision, January 15th, same as Anna. For financial aid, it's listed as the deadline, your application deadline, but again, there's that 10-day window where you can get last-minute documents in as needed.
Okay, so then we have a question that says, holistic approach process. Can you rank below application documents for importance? Transcripts, test scores, English scores, letter of recommendation, and essays. I don't think we can actually rank all of these things in importance. We can say confidently that academics, so your mark sheets and your test score, meaning your year 10 and year 12 test scores, we're not talking about SAT, those will be the most important item at every college you apply to. These other items are important because we will review them and they will tell us about your personal qualities, but the most important aspect will be your transcripts, and the other ones have various weights by different types of colleges. So I don't think we can say in order for the other types. Okay, what would campus life and activities be offered at a liberal arts college? Nicole, do you want to take that one?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So the great thing when you think about our colleges is that we're meant to be a 24/7 kind of campus, right? So I think Anna has some nice pictures here I'm going to put up again in the background. But for us, when you look at, we're looking at not just time in the classroom, but how do we engage our students as residential colleges? Our students live, almost all of them, on campus all 4 years. And so our whole job is not just learning inside the classroom, but how do you learn as an individual and engage and grow who you are outside of the classroom? Both of us have over 100 clubs and organizations, very vibrant communities. All of our residence halls have activities that are housed in them at Union. Minerva houses, which is sort of like your Harry Potter house, but a little different. Each of those have $20,000 a year that students in that house can decide how to spend on activities. We have varsity sports, club and intramural sports, an entire student activities or student life office that runs activities. We had Jason Derulo do a concert virtually. I don't know if you know who he is, but my daughters know who he is and loved the concert. That was one of our virtual concerts this year. We have speakers, I mean, world-known speakers. I know that one of our colleges had Malala on campus. So I think really allowing students to engage in very vibrant ways and new and interesting ways outside the classroom. Academic clubs, so robotics clubs, things that really maybe allow you to go beyond what you're learning in the classroom for your areas of interest. So there's quite a lot that you're going to find on both of our campuses that are really rich experiences to keep you more than busy and entertained all throughout the week.
It's also important to note that these opportunities develop soft skills that are going to be crucial for you in your life after you graduate. Things like time management, things like working with diverse populations, things like public speaking, things like organizing events. All of those types of things will be really helpful for you as you transition into your life as a globally engaged citizen after you graduate. And those types of skills are very much developed through our very robust on-campus life. Okay, so somebody has asked a question, what happens when a university we are applying to requires the SAT test? The testing centers are closed in India. This is why you need to ask whether they're test optional. Most colleges, and I assure you, it's over 90% of colleges and universities in the United States right now are SAT, ACT optional for this year. You need to ask this question though, because if a college says I am not optional and you don't have a test score, you will not be admitted to that college. So you can, however, apply to both of our colleges. We would love to have your application. So we did have a question also about, will you be opening up the application process for next year? And when would you recommend we file our applications? So I can take that one because it kind of is a similar topic. The application is open right now. You can apply now. Probably don't apply now, it's a little early. But remember those deadlines, right? So November 15th for us, November 1st for Nicole, if you would like to apply early decision. And then January timeframe. Now, my suggestion to students always is when you see a deadline, think to yourself 2 weeks before the deadline, right? Because if you wait until the last day to apply, things go wrong. I think we've all had that experience where you have an exam and you're running, and now your pencil breaks and you can't find it. And the version of that for colleges might be your computer crashes and you lose this file. Make sure you give yourself time. So our recommendation, I think, would be at least 2 weeks in advance of the deadline, just so that if something happens, you have time to make up that difference. But I would say the application is available now. So if you would like, you can begin working on it even now. Okay.
And to that point where Anna said working on it, you don't have to start and finish it all in one sitting. You can work on it, save it, make progress. So just be aware of that. You can go in and take a look at what it looks like and begin working through it. There is a topic here too that asks a little bit about safety on campus. And so the beauty of where we're located in central New York is that you have access to some really great cities. But by nature of us being smaller cities, they're safe. And I mean, not just safe for people who look like Anna and I, but for people coming from all throughout the world and from all throughout different backgrounds. Our international students find it a warm and welcoming community and a safe community, not just on our campuses that are determined to create safe spaces for our students where you can grow and learn together. Remember, growing in union together from our various backgrounds, but also throughout our cities, students can feel comfortable going out and enjoying those spaces and knowing that we're communities where you're going to feel welcomed.
Okay, so then we had a question about international student body size. So I think we can answer those quite quickly. Hamilton, we're about 8% international students, about 8% on our campus.
Union is about 10 to 13% international, India being one of our largest and growing number of students on campus.
And we have students from 49 different countries on campus as well. And Nicole, countries?
50 different countries and nations, yeah.
Oh, you just beat us by one, okay.
Depends on how you count. There's
okay.
a lot of nations in there.
So we had a question about documents to submit for financial proofs for need-based scholarships at I-20. Now this is a different process for I-20 versus need-based scholarships. I-20 usually you would need to be able to show your admission letter, you need to be able to show your financial aid letter, and then they'll ask you for bank statements just to ensure that you have sufficient funds to cover your at least 1 year of studies is how I-20 study works, but that's a different process. For financial aid, we did have a section on the slide, Nicole, if you want to bounce back to the financial aid section, which has the forms that will traditionally be required. But again, I would encourage you very strongly, as Nicole said, while all of us have some things in common with our application process, we also have some differences. And when you're applying to the United States, you are responsible for your application. We are responsible for making sure that all the information you need to know is available and accessible to you. But you need to make sure that you're organized and submitting the requirements for each college by the deadline. So we'll have this information on the website. We did list here the titles of some of the common financial aid forms that most colleges who offer need-based financial aid will require. So then we had a question, what are average scholarships assigned to international students? We could do a breakdown of cost of attendance. I think this is in the same area. So we have different formats at each of our college. Remember that Hamilton, we only do need-based scholarships. So this means that depending on what a student's, we have some students who pay all of the expenses, everything from airfare to medical insurance, etc., books, on-campus housing, food. We have some students who have scholarships that will cover everything. And then we have other students who will have scholarships that cover 10,000 because it depends on their student's financial background. But I think Nicole might have a better answer for Union.
Sure. So I was just looking to see if I could share actually the direct page. So when you go to our websites, it actually breaks down, because I don't expect you to remember it, the cost of attendance. So for Union, the cost of attendance is $75,000. And that's everything. So I think it's important to understand what the everything is. That's tuition, that's housing, that's food, that includes your printing, that includes your laundry, that includes your international insurance, it includes your activities fees, remembering that then almost all your activities are free. So on campus. So and other sort of excursions off campus are free. So that includes the full cost of attendance for us, which is quite a lot more than probably what students would think about. On average, our need-based financial aid is on average about $36,000 per student. That's US per year. That's an average. Merit scholarships, like I said, just range between $10,000 and $25,000 per student. So that varies.
And Hamilton's cost is very similar for overall cost of attendance. I think it's about 76,000 in total, and that's everything included. But again, if you're admitted to Hamilton College or Union College, we are both committed to making sure that it's affordable for you and your family. You can also go onto our websites, and there are financial aid calculator tools, which you can use, where you can submit information about your family's financial backgrounds, and you can then get an estimation of what would your scholarship package be like at our specific colleges or institutions. So that's accessible to you. You can go to our website, to our financial aid page. You can even just Google Union College financial aid calculator or Hamilton College financial aid calculator, and you'll be able to find that information. Okay, so then we have a question about holistic review types, tips for describing, for letters of recommendation and essay. So I think what I always encourage students to think about, so the letters of recommendation will be taught by your teacher, will be written by your teachers, right? So, but it is important to think about your essay and about your overall application as a cumulative image. So oftentimes we get very stressed about one individual, maybe it's testing, maybe it's essay, we get very stressed and we have to spend a lot of our energy there. We focus only on that. In the US, we have a saying which says, you miss the forest because you're focusing on the trees, right? So you think about your testing as a tree, or you think about your essay as a tree, or you think about your recommendations as a tree, and you focus on each one, but you do not see the overall picture. So my suggestion to you would be, when you're thinking about essays, even recommendations, extracurriculars, each of those sections are important. As Nicole mentioned, we will read everything that you send to us. So it's important also that it is a comprehensive review of you. It should be an accurate reflection of you, things that are important to you. How are you as a person, as a student, etc. It should be an accurate reflection of you, but of course on a good day. And think about what are you sharing through your essay? Is it reflected through other application elements? So if you talk about your extracurriculars in one section, maybe you want to focus on another aspect of your personality for your essay. But the truth is that everybody's essay is different because it's personal to everybody, and each person is different. But you should try and make sure that you are being active in your essay writing process, which means don't just describe things around you. We want to know how you were affected and how you changed through whatever experience it is that you're writing about. Nicole, do you have any other things you'd want to suggest?
2 pieces of wisdom. The number one thing we want to know about your essay, it's you. The whole point of the essay is for us to learn about you. So you can find in every single one of those common application prompts and any prompt that you find, there's going to be a component that you'll see very clearly talks about how it relates to you. The questions are really not what, we're not really looking for the answers to the questions, honestly. They're just a prompt to get you thinking about how to convey to us something about you. Okay, so we're not some colleges may have their own answer or own questions they've written. They may be very specific to that school. University of Chicago, for example, they want to know exactly that answer to that question. But for the rest of us, those questions, the answer to the question is less about what we want to know. It's a way for us to get to know about you. So that essay should always answer that question, and it shouldn't be a relisting of your resume. It shouldn't be a relisting of your activities or a timeline of your life. It should be far more personal, and it could be very very focused on one topic. The other thing I'd say is the success about recommendation letters is that request them early, give teachers a lot of time to write them. And we understand that some schools, teachers are not used to writing recommendation letters. It's not part of the culture. We understand that. But for the places that there is a culture of writing recommendation letters, provide them plenty of time to do you justice and write you a really great letter.
Absolutely. I think those are absolutely great words of wisdom. Okay, so then we had a question about would length of program or cost of program increase if we choose to a major or minor or double major option? Both of our colleges focus on 4-year graduation plans. So we will make sure you have very strong academic advising before you select a second major to make sure you can fit this in the 4-year time frame. So the cost would be the same. You will have specific range for numbers of classes that you would usually take. This would usually be 4 or 5 classes per semester, but the cost would be the same, and we both focus very much on making sure students can graduate in 4 years. Okay, we have a question about whether IBDP students get an English test waiver.
Yes, at Union, yes.
At our college, usually is the answer. You'd have to email me directly about that. But this is one of the best curriculums for preparation for success in the United States. So we very much appreciate the IBDP. Okay, and then the last question we have, and then maybe we need to wrap up, is will classes be taught online or on campus next year? So Nicole, do you want to start with that?
Let me consult my crystal ball on to see if I can predict what will happen with COVID next year.
You don't have control over all the responses for COVID.
I have no idea. I really, so in my mind, if you were to say, will classes be online next year? You just want to know. Yes, they're going to be online next year. Absolutely. Or I mean, in person next year, not online. Yes, we're going to be on campus next year. We're all going to be in person. Everyone's going to be on campus. We're going to be back to normal. Everything's going to be as it should be in the world. And people will be living on campus and taking classes in person, and no masks will be required, and everything will be back as it was. So in my mind and in my world, that's what I'm hoping for. And so the question about will our campuses be in person next year, right now we all would say yes, as in that's our hope. But we have no idea what COVID's going to do. We have no idea, how that will impact our campuses. And really, COVID is the only thing that's preventing us from having international students on our campus right now. And it's not preventing us from everyone. So we've had quite a lot of students. Our students from India have returned. Our returning students are on campus and are taking classes, right? Beginning, in a week. Our new students, some were able to attain their visas even though offices were closed in a certain time frame. Some were not. So it's really COVID that's the issue. Beyond that, all of our students who needed to return to campus had no issues entering the country this year if they already had visas. Students who apply for visas still in the last several years have been able to get their visas approved 100% of the time. So the restrictions to our students coming to the campus rely upon a virus we cannot predict, unfortunately. But all other things seem to be well in place for students to be on our campus and for us to welcome them there. So anything else, Anna?
I would agree with what Nicole said. We would all love to be able to predict the future. Now, both Nicole and I are offering on-campus instruction this year, not us personally, but our colleges. So our students at Hamilton, our classes started this week. We have a lot of very complicated metrics that we have in place to make sure students are safe and protected. You can read about that at hamilton.edu/coronavirus if you're interested. But as Nicole said, we can't predict the future. But the best predictor for the future is how did a college react in the past, right? So it is a very good question to ask colleges. How did you react when, because all colleges in the United States went online for a portion. what were the values that you did? And I know both of our colleges focused on making sure our students were safe, had opportunities to return home if they wanted to. That included sometimes purchasing airfare or purchasing laptops or Wi-Fi connection for our students to make sure they could continue their international their educations back home, even if they're international students. This also included students who were not able to return home, staying in our residence halls. Free at Hamilton, we kept those students in our residence halls over the summer, free of charge for room and board. So we can't tell you what happens in the future, but you can see from our previous responses what a college's values are. And that is the type of information that can be helpful for you in making those decisions in the future. Now, just also a comment about students able to arrive on campus versus deferring as well. I know this might be something you're also concerned about, international students deferring for reasons such as visas that Nicole was mentioning. So a lot of us have options for those students to either start their studies a little bit later. I know at Hamilton, we did not defer students for a year. We deferred them to the January term. Which means they'll be starting on our college in January, and it's not going to affect the admission rates or the financial aid rates for next year, because all of those students will be starting in January, and they are getting visas as we speak. So we're doing everything we can do to make sure we're supporting all of our students, and our international students are very much members of that crucial community. But I think that's wrapping up our presentation for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And we want to invite Kunal if you'd like to say a thank you closing words as well.
Yes, I hope you can see me and hear me well. Thank you so
Yes.
much. This was such an engaging session, and of course, a very unique topic as you have selected. And as I mentioned earlier as well, there was a lot of enthusiasm for this event. So thank you so much to both esteemed panelists, Anna and Nicole, for hosting this session. Really appreciate your kind and valuable time at a very busy time of the year for you. Thank you once again for not only sharing such rich insights, but also providing such detailed answers to all the students, because I'm sure they love hearing the answers that you provided, along with the parents and high school counselors, 12th grade students, parents and counselors. Thank you so much for joining us. We know it's late in the evening, around 7 p.m. here in India, after a long day of school. So thank you to you as well. I know classes start early and it's a long day, and you have many programs once the classes get over, and already everything is online. So thank you so much for taking time out and for your enthusiasm and rich engagement during this program. Of course, to you parents as well. And counselors, I would like to have a special thanks to you for coordinating this session, for allowing your students and ensuring your students participate in this session. So thank you so much. It's a pleasure being in touch with you. Also, a polite note, this session is recorded, as you all know. So the recording of the session will be shared with your school as well, so that other students who are not able to join in this evening due to their schedules can listen on the recording that Miss Anna and Miss Nicole have presented, and of course continue to be in touch with them well after this session is over, which is, I'm sure, which is what we all want, the engagement between the students and families and the respective US institutions. Having said that, thank you once again, Miss Anna. Thank you so much once again, Miss Nicole. We
Thank
wish you
you.
both a wonderful day. Please take care, stay safe. And to our lovely students, parents, and counselors, please take care, stay safe, and wish you a pleasant evening as well. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you all. A
Thank
good day, good
you.
evening. Take care. Bye bye.